Hi guys, I'm Kat and welcome back to my channel. We're in the middle of May, which means that the Met Gala happened about 2 weeks ago now, and kind of since then I've been on this kind of big deep dive into the Met Gala and kind of the history behind the Met Gala. I kind of knew what it was about, but kind of more so looking at the kind of past themes and the past exhibitions and kind of the past guests and everything like that, just to kind of see the evolution of the Met Gala. Turns out it's quite been a hefty project, spanning from kind of the early 70s all the way to today, 2025, and it's been really kind of interesting to see and look at the different eras and to kind of see it transform from what it was to what it is today. And I've kind of created this multi-part series. So today we're going to be talking about kind of the 70s, so 1973 through to 1979, and I think this is going to be about a 5-part series. So stay tuned to see all of them. I've kind of broken it down into different decades. We've got 1970s, 80s, 90s, the 2000, 2010, and then 2025. Then the 2020s. That's 6 parts. Sorry. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about the 1970s. But first, kind of just like a little bit of history about the Met Gala, because I don't think a lot of people actually know the history behind the Met Gala and how it came to be. So the Met Gala was created in 1948 by Eleanor Lambert, and it was created actually as a fundraiser, and that's still what it is today. It's still a fundraiser, and it was created as a fundraiser for the Costume Institute. When we talk about costume, I think a lot of people kind of think of costume as being like costume TV, film, theatre, that kind of thing. But actually when we're talking about period wear, costume means period wear. So period wear being kind of older clothes, and clothes that typically we want to kind of save and keep on display and learn from. So the Costume Institute is essentially a museum, I guess you'd call it, that collects and salvages and keeps old clothes, old fashion in good repair, so that we can learn from it. The Costume Institute did kind of merge with the Met Museum, so they're kind of it is part of the Met Museum now. However, it is still a fully kind of self-funded. So the Met Gala was created as a way to fundraise money and to kind of help keep the institute alive, and it quickly became one of the biggest events, especially fashion events, of the year. I think with a lot of people, they kind of see, when they don't know the history behind the Met Gala, they kind of see the Met Gala and think that it's a big event where celebrities kind of get together in their expensive clothes and kind of, you know, say fuck you to poor people. But that's not really what it was created to do. It is a fundraising event for the arts, and I think I do think it's a great way for celebrities to be able to use their celebrityism for funding the arts. The tickets all goes back into the institute and helps the institute stay alive, and therefore helps the institute kind of buy more items and keep these items in great condition. The Met Gala marks the beginning of the new kind of exhibition. So each year the Costume Institute puts on a new exhibition, and the Met Gala kind of marks the opening of that. So the day that the Met Gala takes place, the Met Museum and the exhibition is completely closed to the public, and then the next day it opens to the public with the new exhibition. So the Met Gala was created in 1948 by Eleanor Lambert. Originally it was just $50 to go, and it was essentially just a dinner, and it took place in Upper East Manhattan. And then in 1972, Diana Vreeland took over as a consultant to the Costume Institute, and she kind of really made it what it is today. So she gave it the themes, and she also moved it from Upper East Manhattan to the actual museum itself, and with that the celebrities that attended would get a tour of the exhibition as well. These days we also do have performances that happen, so secret performances. This year it was Usher. Last year it was Ariana Grande, and we kind of have the after parties and everything else that goes along with it. Anna Wintour, the editor of Vogue, then took over in 1995. And nowadays, instead of individuals buying tickets for themselves, what typically tends to happen is that a brand will buy a whole table and then invite celebrities themselves, who they typically want to represent their brand. And as of 2024, it does cost upwards of $75,000. So 1973 was the first kind of themed Met Gala that Diana Vreeland created herself. So to set the scene, 1973, The Exorcist was in cinemas, Bruce Lee had just starred in his last ever film, Enter the Dragon, and Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon was topping the charts. We also saw the Watergate scandal unfold. And the gala that year took place on March the 21st instead of May, as we all know it to be today, and the theme was the world of Balenciaga. It was all about celebrating the life and designs of Cristobal Balenciaga, and it was sponsored by the government of Spain. Balenciaga, I believe, is Spanish. In case you didn't know, UAL, so University Arts London, have a fantastic archive on their website, which I believe is called Exhibit in Fashion, and so any of the images they have of previous exhibitions throughout the years, they put on there for you to be able to see, alongside a little blurb, a little description about it. So if you kind of are looking for exhibitions from past, that's a great place to start. I've been able to get a lot of information from UAL for this. So UAL have this to say about the Balenciaga exhibition. Balenciaga was the true son of a strong country filled with style, vibrant colour and fine history. He remained forever a Spaniard, and his inspiration came from the bull rings, the flamenco dancers, the fishermen in their boots and loose blouses, the glories of the church and the cool cloisters and monasteries. He took their colours, their cuts and festooned them to his own taste and dressed the Western world for 30 years. A woman search for their special identity. All women have sleeping qualities of luxury and mystery. Balenciaga brought the body and dress together in harmony, and suddenly a woman found herself in perfect rhythm with the universe. She found herself in delectable colours and combinations and almost impossible perfection. He loved the coquetry of lace and ribbon, of floating taffeta and race day clothes cut with such gusto and flair of tailoring as the Western world has never known. He was a master tailor, a master dressmaker. His voice was low and his smile was warm. He believed totally in the grace and dignity of women and made each and every one of his devoted patrons a unique and extraordinary figure. Unfortunately, it was really difficult to find any images from this gala of either the guests or the actual kind of exhibition itself. However, this year we did have two galas. So the second gala was held on December the 12th. The theme was the 10s, the 20s, the 30s, innovative clothes. UAL stated the 20th century came in fresh as paint and by 1909 had started to roll. Total changes took place, traditions evaporated and Paris became the artistic and social centre of the Western world. Paris dance was mad, the carpets in my parents' apartment were never down. Victrolas blared and the castle amused themselves during the turkey trot. Everyone was gay, elegant and totally tuned into the new century. The world was intoxicated with new art, new music, new way of life, new clothes. No dresses had ever been cut anything like those of Poiret, Viennette, Callot, Chanel and Schiaparelli. The collection reveals the unique changes that took place in fashion from 1909 to 1939. So this gala was co-chaired by Phyllis Alworth Dillon. The only guest that I could find from this event was designer Halston, who attended the event with socialite Jane Halser. 1974. So in 1974 we saw the rise of ABBA, the publication of Carrie and the resignation of President Nixon. And then on November the 20th we had the Met Gala. This time it was co-chaired by philanthropist Jane Engelhard and sponsored by, I believe it was a typewriting manufacturer called SCM Corporation. This time the theme was romantic and glamorous Hollywood design, with UAL stating the glorification of heroes and heroines, beautiful women, handsome men, everything was larger than life, the diamonds were bigger and furs were thicker and more, the silks, velvets, satins and chiffons and miles of ostrich feathers. Everything was an exaggeration of history, fiction and the whole wide, extraordinary world. Guests this year included Bianca and Mick Jagger, Marissa Berenson and Pat Buckley, which, remember that name because we hear a lot more from her. And we did have a few hot topics this year, so we also had Wallis Simpson in attendance. If you don't know who Wallis Simpson is, Wallis Simpson married Queen Elizabeth's uncle, and her uncle, I can't remember the life of me what his name is, which is really bad as a British person. But her uncle was originally the king and he fell in love with Wallis, but Wallis was a divorced woman and royalty can't, or at the time couldn't, marry divorced people, so he abdicated the throne, which led to Queen Elizabeth's father taking on the crown and therefore kind of passing it down their lineage instead of her uncle's lineage. This was a really kind of scandalous time, and kind of after that Elizabeth's uncle was kind of banished to America and he lived out his days in America with Wallis. and they were kind of seen as like the scandalous socialites of the family. So the fact that Wallis Simpson was seen at the Met Gala was kind of scandalous to the royal family. We also saw Cher attend the Met Gala, and she wore the OG naked dress, which during the 70s was especially scandalous. It was designed by Bob Mackie, who's a famous costume designer. Did a lot of stuff for Cher. A lot of her most famous outfits are designed by Bob Mackie. And so this, again, was quite a scandalous outfit to wear during the 70s. 1975. So 1975 brought us the first episode of Saturday Night Live. Jaws was in cinemas, and disco started to have its rise in popularity. And the theme for this year's gala was American Woman of Style, with co-chair again Jane Engelhard, and sponsored again by SCM Corporation. Again, not much information on this gala, but guests did include socialite Lee Radziwill, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, and supermodel Naomi Sims. So then quickly moving on to 1976. 1976 saw the death of Mal Evans, former Beatles manager, road manager I believe, and Agatha Christie. And Save Your Kisses for Me won the Eurovision. This year the gala took place on December the 6th, and the theme was the glory of Russian costume. This time the co-chair was Jackie Kennedy, and it was sponsored again by SCM Corporation. UAL states an unprecedented exhibition of historic Russian clothes that have never been shown before outside the Soviet Union. The glory of Russian costume includes over 100 ensembles, urban, court and peasant, and many accessories representing 200 years of Russian history from 1700 to 1900, and a remarkable group of archaeological artifacts of clothing, fragments, jewellery from the 11th and 12th centuries. We also saw guests, socialites Imelda Marcos and Christina Ford, actress Marlo Thomas, and music executive David Geffen. 1977, so in 1977 we had the release of Star Wars, the debut of Saturday Night Fever, and Queen Elizabeth's Silver Jubilee. The Met Gala this year was on December the 12th, and the theme was Vanity Fair, a treasure trove. Again, we had co-chair Jackie Kennedy, and it was sponsored this time by the designer Halston. Guests included this year journalist and TV personality Barbara Walters wearing Halston, Lee Radziwill wearing Mary McFadden, Jackie Kennedy, Andy Warhol. We saw the drag queen Divine wearing Zandra Rose as well. 1978, Grease was released, the Bee Gees were on radio, Superman was in cinemas, and the Sex Pistols played their last gig. And the theme this year was costumes and designs of ballet russe. This year it was held on the 20th of November with co-chair socialite Pat Buckley, who co-chairs for quite a few galas. Again, we saw Lee Radziwill wearing Valentino, and Diana Ross, who's a frequent guest of the Met Gala, with designer Halpern, which I believe is what she's wearing as well. And then the last gala of the 70s was 1979. So the 1979 punk rock was slowly climbing up the charts. We had the first Sony Walkman being released, Apocalypse Now was in cinemas, and the theme this year was Fashions of the Habsburg Era, Austria to Hungary. And it was held on December 3rd, again co-chair Pat Buckley. UAL states the show presented more than 150 costumes, uniforms and military and equestrian trappings dating from the 18th century in Austria and Hungary to the collapse of the Habsburg Empire in 1918. But at the heart of the exhibition were the costumes and liveries worn at court in the late 19th century during the reign of Emperor Franz Joseph I and Empress Elizabeth, one of the most highly romantic periods in European history. At mid-century, the power of the empire was already waning, but the grandeur of the costumes, the vestments and the civil orders and the gala gowns of the ladies of the court belied the aura of impending ruin. Guests to this gala included lead singer of Blondie Debbie Harry, actress and actor Ali McGraw and Peter Wells, actress Margot Hemingway, Jackie Kennedy wearing Valentino. What I also found was interesting was I found a New York Times article stating that Liza Minnelli, who was supposed to be part of the group, was at home with her feet up. That wraps up the 70s, so in the next one it will be about kind of the 80s. The 80s is where we kind of really start to see kind of more paparazzi photos, and we kind of start to see a little bit more of the celebrities that we know today, and a few more of the looks that we probably know today as well. So do subscribe, like, comment. All my social media is down below, and I'll see you when we discuss the 80s.